I keep forgetting small things, words mostly, common ones I've used my entire life. This morning I couldn't remember what to call the thing you use to unlock a door. I stood there for almost a minute, staring at it in my hand, knowing what it was but unable to pull the name from wherever names are supposed to live in your brain. It came back, eventually, but those gaps are getting wider, and I'm starting to wonder what happens when they don't close anymore. I need to write this down while I still can, while I still know who I am, because I'm not entirely sure how much longer that's going to be true. It started with Daniel. Or maybe it started before Daniel, and he was just the first person I knew who couldn't hide it anymore. We met freshman year at State, ended up as roommates sophomore year, stayed close even after we graduated, and he took a job 3 hours north in Seattle. We'd meet up every couple months, usually halfway between us at some dive bar off the interstate, send each other stupid videos, the usual friendship maintenance. Daniel was solid, one of those people you never had to worry about. If he said he'd be somewhere, he'd be there. If he said he'd do something, it got done. Until it didn't. He'd been planning this camping trip for months, somewhere up in the Cascades, near the Canadian border. Solo trip. He wanted to unplug, he said. Get away from screens and people and the constant noise of the city. Daniel had always been outdoorsy, so none of us thought twice about it. He was supposed to be gone a week. He came back after 11 days. When he finally responded to my messages, all he said was that he'd gotten lost, took a wrong turn on one of the trails, had to backtrack and wait out some bad weather. Reasonable enough. Happens to experienced hikers all the time. But when I saw him 3 weeks later, something was off. He had lost weight. Not a healthy amount. His face had this hollowed out quality, like someone had scooped out everything soft and left just the bones and skin. Dark circles under his eyes so deep they looked like bruises, and he couldn't stop looking over his shoulder. Every few minutes his eyes would flip to the side, scanning behind him, searching for something he never found. We met at this Mexican place we'd been going to since college. He ordered food, didn't touch it, just pushed it around his plate while I talked about work, about my car breaking down, about nothing important. He nodded in the right places, but his eyes were somewhere else. Finally, I put down my fork and asked him straight out if something had happened on his trip. He stared at his untouched enchiladas for a long time. Long enough that I started to think he wasn't going to answer. Then he said, "Have you ever felt like someone was watching you? Like really watching you? Not just a feeling, but something you know is real?" I shrugged. "Sure, everyone's felt that." "No." His voice was flat, empty. Not like this. Not every second of every day for 2 weeks straight. That's when he told me about the camping trip. He'd set up camp near this dried creek bed, miles from any road or trail marker. First few days were perfect. Quiet. Almost unnaturally quiet, he said, like the forest was holding its breath. On the 4th night, he woke up to something walking around his tent. Slow, measured steps, circling. He called out, asked if anyone was there. The footsteps stopped. Then, from somewhere in the darkness outside his tent, he heard his own voice call back. Not an echo, not similar, identical. "Hello? Is anyone there?" Same words, same inflection. Same slight upward lilt at the end of the question that Daniel always did. He didn't leave his tent that night, stayed zipped inside until the sun came up. When he finally worked up the courage to look outside, there were no footprints in the dirt around his tent, just his own from the night before. But the voice came back the next night, and the night after that. Each time it sounded more natural, more real, less like a recording and more like an actual person speaking. By the 6th night, it wasn't just mimicking him anymore, it was having conversations with itself. "How much longer do you think?" "Soon. He's almost ready." "Does he know yet?" "No, but he will." "Shall we show him?" "Not yet. let him see when it's time. Daniel packed up everything before sunrise and drove straight home. Didn't stop except for gas. He said he kept checking the rearview mirror, convinced he'd see something crouched in the back seat. When he finally got to his apartment, he locked every door, pulled every curtain, and didn't leave for 5 days. I didn't know how to respond. Part of me wanted to tell him he'd just been exhausted, that being alone in the woods for that long can mess with your perception, but the way he was looking at me stopped the words in my throat. He wasn't asking for reassurance, he was warning me. "Listen to me carefully," he said, leaning forward across the table. His eyes were intense, desperate. "If I ever show up at your place without calling first, don't let me in." I frowned. "What are you talking about? I'm completely serious." His hand gripped the edge of the table so hard his knuckles went white. "If I just appear at your door, if I text you asking to come over out of nowhere, if I call you at odd hours asking weird questions, don't engage, don't answer, just pretend I don't exist. Daniel, you're freaking me out. Good." He stood abruptly, threw 2 20s on the table even though we'd barely ordered anything, and walked out without looking back. That was the last conversation I had with him, the real him anyway. For the next few weeks, things seemed relatively normal. He texted me occasionally. Memes, links to articles about hiking accidents and missing persons cases, which seemed a little on the nose given what he told me. But I figured it was his way of processing. I convinced myself he'd just had a bad experience in the woods. Panic attack. Isolation-induced paranoia. The human brain does strange things when it's alone for too long. Then the texts stopped completely. The warning no explanation, I called him. Voicemail. I messaged him on Instagram, Facebook, even LinkedIn. Nothing. I called his work and they told me he'd taken an extended leave of absence 3 weeks prior. Personal reasons. They couldn't tell me more than that. I wasn't immediately worried. Daniel was an adult. Maybe he needed space. Maybe he was dealing with something he didn't want to talk about. But then the dreams started. Not normal dreams. These were sharp, focused, the kind that feel more real than your actual memories. In every single one, Daniel was standing outside my apartment door, knocking softly. 3 gentle taps. Always 3. I'd walk to the door, look through the peephole, and there he'd be, smiling, but the smile was wrong. Too wide, held too long. Like someone who'd learned what a smile was from a textbook but had never actually felt happiness. In the dream, my hand would reach for the doorknob, moving on its own, and just as my fingers touched the metal, I'd hear Daniel's voice from behind me. Inside my apartment, "Don't." I'd spin around and there he'd be, standing in my living room, shaking his head slowly. His eyes were wide, terrified. "That's not me," he'd whisper. "Don't let it in. Whatever you do, don't let it in." I'd wake up with my heart slamming against my ribs, soaked in sweat, and immediately check my phone. Nothing. No messages, no missed calls. But then, about 10 days after the dream started, I got a text from Daniel's number. "Hey, can I come over?" No punctuation. Daniel was weirdly particular about grammar, even in texts. He always used proper capitalization and periods. It was this quirky thing about him that everyone made fun of. I stared at the message, remembering what he'd said at the restaurant. I didn't respond. 15 minutes later, another text. "I really need to talk to you about something." Then another. "I'm outside your building." I wasn't going to open the door. I'd promised myself I wouldn't, but I looked through the peephole anyway. He was standing in the hallway, hands in his pockets, staring directly at the peephole like he knew exactly where my eye was. His face was completely neutral, no expression at all, and he didn't blink. I watched him for 30 seconds. He didn't move, didn't shift his weight, didn't blink. I stepped away from the door. My phone buzzed. "I can hear you breathing." I turned off my phone, locked the deadbolt, chain lock, everything. Then I sat on my couch in the dark and didn't move for the next 4 hours. I could hear him out there, not moving, not knocking, just breathing. This slow, steady rhythm that matched my own breathing almost perfectly. When I finally built up the courage to check the people again, the hallway was empty. I convinced myself I'd been paranoid, stressed, maybe even sleepwalking and imagining things. But the next morning, my neighbor, Mrs. Imstente, Jen from 4B, knocked on my door and asked me why my friend had been standing in the hallway all night. All night, I repeated. She nodded. I saw him when I took my trash out around 11. He was just standing there, facing your door. I thought maybe you two had an argument. I saw him again when I came back from my early morning walk around 5, same spot, same position. He never moved. Did he say anything to you? No. I said hello, but he didn't respond. Didn't even look at me. Just kept staring at your door. She paused. Is everything all right? He seemed very strange. I thanked her and closed my door. My hands were shaking. That night the knocking started, not loud, not aggressive, just 3 soft taps, always the same. Tap, 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 around 2 in the morning, like clockwork. I never answered. I never looked. But every single night without fail, at exactly 2 a.m., the knocking came, and every night I'd hear his voice through the door. I'm sorry, I didn't want this to happen. I tried to warn you. Sometimes it sounded like he was crying, sometimes laughing, but it always sounded exactly like Daniel. I stopped sleeping, started taking pills just to get a few hours of unconsciousness, but even then, the dreams found me. Daniel outside, Daniel inside, Daniel sitting at the foot of my bed, watching me, whispering things I couldn't quite understand. I thought about moving, thought about calling the police, but what would I tell them? That my missing friend was haunting my apartment building, that something was pretending to be him? They think I was losing my mind. Maybe I was, because I started noticing things, small things that didn't make sense. My apartment keys would be in different places than where I'd left them. My coffee mug would be in the sink when I clearly remembered putting it in the dishwasher. The chair at my desk would be pulled out even though I specifically pushed it in before going to bed. And then, one morning, I found a note on my kitchen counter, written in handwriting that looked almost like mine. Close enough that if you weren't paying attention, you'd think it was mine, but the letters were slightly different. A little too perfect, too practiced. You should let me in. It's getting cold out here. I stopped locking my doors after that. It sounds insane, I know, but I realized something. Whatever was out there, whatever was wearing Daniel's face and using his voice, locks didn't matter. It was already getting in. The notes proved that. The moved objects proved that. I started seeing it in my peripheral vision, just for a second. A shape standing in the corner. When I turned to look, nothing. Empty space. But I could feel it. Watching, studying, learning. 3 nights ago, I woke up unable to move. Sleep paralysis, the doctors call it. Your brain wakes up, but your body stays locked in sleep mode. Except this wasn't just paralysis. I could feel weight on the edge of my bed. Something sitting there, something breathing softly, in perfect rhythm with my own breaths. And then I heard Daniel's voice. So close to my ear I could feel the warmth of breath that shouldn't exist. Almost done now, just a little longer. When I finally broke free of the paralysis, gasping and thrashing, the room was empty. But my bedroom door was open. I know I closed it. I always close it. It's a habit from childhood that I've never broken. I called in sick to work the next day. And the day after that, I haven't left my apartment in almost a week now. I keep all the lights on constantly because the darkness feels crowded, like there's something in it, pressed close, waiting for me to acknowledge it. My phone buzzed an hour ago, text from Daniel's number. "Thank you for being patient." I didn't respond. But when I glanced up at my TV, which was turned off, I saw my reflection in the black screen, and my reflection smiled at me. I didn't smile. I sat perfectly still, staring at the dark screen, watching my reflection's mouth curve upward, while my actual face remained frozen in horror. Then the reflection winked, and I felt my own eye twitch, like my body was trying to wink, but I'd stopped it just in time. That's when I understood. This wasn't something outside anymore. It was inside. Inside my apartment, inside my life, inside me. I'm writing this because I need to document what's happening, what's been happening. Maybe it won't matter. Maybe by the time anyone reads this, it'll be too late, but I have to try. After seeing my reflection smile, I started paying attention to everything. Every movement I made, every thought I had, every word that came out of my mouth. And that's when I realized the signs had been there for weeks. I'd just been too scared to see them. 4 weeks ago, I came home from the gym and found my bathroom window open. I live on the 7th floor. There's no fire escape, no balcony, no way for anyone to reach that window from the outside. I told myself I must have opened it that morning and forgotten, even though I knew I hadn't, even though it had been raining and the floor beneath the window was bone dry. 3 weeks ago, I woke up with dirt under my fingernails, not just a little, packed in deep like I'd been digging. My shoes were by the door, clean. My clothes were clean, just my fingernails. I'd scrubbed them raw in the shower and forced myself not to think about it. 2 weeks ago, I found a jacket in my closet that wasn't mine. Same brand I usually bought, same size, but a different color. Navy blue instead of black. When I checked the pockets, I found a receipt dated from 5 days earlier. My name was on it, my credit card. But I'd never bought this jacket. I'd been at work that entire day in back-to-back meetings from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. I checked my credit card statement online. The charge was there, $83 at a clothing store downtown, purchased at 1:23 p.m. on a Wednesday while I was sitting in a conference room presenting quarterly reports. I called my credit card company. They said there was nothing unusual about the charge. It had been made in person with chip and pin. They suggested maybe a family member had borrowed my card. I don't have family in the city. I live alone. I've always lived alone. After that, I started going through my phone, really going through it, and I found hundreds of photos I didn't remember taking. Most of them were of me, sleeping, eating breakfast, brushing my teeth, sitting at my desk, walking down the street, all taken from angles that suggested someone had been holding my phone, pointing it at me, while I was completely unaware. But it was my phone. It's always with me. I'm obsessive about it. The photos went back almost 3 months, right around the time Daniel came back from his camping trip and started acting strange. I wanted to delete them. My finger hovered over the button. But something stopped me, some instinct that told me I needed evidence, even though I didn't know what I'd do with it or who I'd show it to. I scrolled through them slowly, my stomach churning with each image, me cooking dinner, me watching TV, me staring out the window. In some photos, I was looking directly at the camera, but my eyes were empty, vacant, like I was looking through the lens instead of at it. The most recent photo, taken 2 nights ago according to the timestamp, was of me sleeping. The angle suggests that the phone had been held directly above my face, close, maybe 6 inches away, and in the background, barely visible in the darkness, there was someone standing in my bedroom doorway. Tall, completely still, watching me sleep. I dropped the phone. When I picked it back up with shaking hands and looked at the photo again, the doorway was empty, just shadows. But I knew what I'd seen. I knew it had been there. That's when everything Daniel had tried to tell me finally made sense. Whatever had followed him back from those mountains, it hadn't just learned to mimic him. It had learned to be him, perfectly, completely. every mannerism, every speech pattern, every tiny habit that made Daniel Daniel. And once it perfected one person, it moved on to the next target, me. It was studying me, learning me, taking photos to catalog my expressions, my movements, the way I existed in the world when I thought no one was watching. I thought about running, just throwing some clothes in a bag and driving until I hit the coast or ran out of gas. But where would I go? If it had access to my phone, my credit cards, my apartment, then it already knew everything about me, my accounts, my passwords, everyone I knew. There was nowhere I couldn't follow, and I was starting to suspect it was already too late anyway. The dreams were getting more invasive. I'd wake up exhausted, muscles aching like I'd been running marathons in my sleep. Sometimes there'd be mud on my sheets. Once, I woke up fully dressed, shoes on, with my car keys clutched in my hand and no memory of how they'd gotten there. I started setting traps for myself, small tests. I'd balance a coin on the edge of the bathroom sink before bed. In the morning, it would be on the floor. I'd leave a specific book on my nightstand, spine facing out. In the morning, it would be spine facing in. I'd set my phone face down on the kitchen counter. I'd wake up and it would be face up. Someone was moving through my apartment while I slept, touching my things, adjusting them, putting them back almost exactly where they'd been. Almost, but not quite. I tried staying awake 41 hours straight, fueled by coffee and energy drinks and pure terror. But eventually my body betrayed me. My eyes closed, and when I opened them again, it was morning, and there was a text message on my phone that I didn't remember sending. It was to my mom. "Everything's fine, don't worry about me, I'm doing great." She'd responded, "That's good, honey, I wasn't worried. Are you feeling okay?" I stared at the exchange. I hadn't talked to my mom in 3 weeks. We had a good relationship. We weren't the type to check in randomly. And I would never say I'm doing great. It wasn't the way I talked, unless I hadn't sent it. I called her immediately. "Hey, sweetie, what's going on?" She sounded happy to hear from me. "Mom, that text I sent you this morning, what time did you get it?" "Oh, I don't know. Maybe 7. Why? Is something wrong? What did it sound like to you?" There was a pause. "What do you mean? It was a text. It sounded like you were doing well. Should I be concerned?" I wanted to tell her everything. I wanted to explain what was happening. But the words wouldn't come. How do you tell your mother that you think something is pretending to be you, that you're losing time, that you're not sure you're really you anymore? "No, Mom, I'm fine, I'm fine." "Okay, well, call me if you need anything, alright?" I promised I would and hung up. But I wasn't fine. I started documenting everything obsessively. I'd write down exactly what I did each day, who I talked to, where I went. I'd hide the notes in places only I would think to look. Inside book covers, taped to the underside of drawers, folded into the pockets of coats I never wore. The next morning, I found one of my notes sitting on the kitchen counter. It had been unfolded, read, and left out in plain sight. Written beneath my own notes, in the handwriting that was nearly identical to mine, was a message. "Stop fighting this. You're only making it more difficult." My heart stopped. I grabbed my phone to call the police. But I hesitated. What would I tell them? That I was leaving notes for myself and someone was reading them? That I suspected something was impersonating me, but only part of the time, and I had no proof because it was me? They'd think I was having a psychotic break. Maybe I was, but then I remembered Daniel's face at that restaurant, the terror in his eyes, the desperate warning he tried to give me. And I remembered Mrs. Chen saying she'd seen him standing outside my door all night. The breathing on the other side of the door, the text that didn't sound quite right. This was real. It had to be real. I needed proof, something concrete, something I could show someone to make them believe me. I bought a motion-activated camera, nothing fancy, the kind people use for home security. I hid it in my bedroom, pointed at the door, and let it record. The first night, nothing happened. Just footage of me tossing and turning, occasionally sitting up to look around before lying back down. The second night, I got out of bed at 2:47 a.m., walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, drank it, and went back to bed. I had absolutely no memory of this. When I watched the footage, I moved strangely, stiffly, like someone who was learning how to operate a body and hadn't quite mastered it yet. The third night, I sat up at 10:33 p.m., stared directly at the camera for 47 minutes, then got up and left the room. The camera couldn't see the hallway, but I could hear sounds: drawers opening, footsteps, the front door opening, silence for hours, then the door closing again, footsteps returning. I came back into frame at 3:12 a.m., sat on the bed, stared at the camera for another 20 minutes, then laid down and closed my eyes. In the morning, I checked my shoes. Wet, it had rained last night. I'd been outside. I checked my car. The odometer showed I'd driven 89 miles, round trip to somewhere I couldn't identify. I tried to retrace the route using my car's GPS history, but there was nothing. No record of the trip. I spent the entire day trying to figure out where I'd gone. I mapped out an 89-mile radius from my apartment. It covered 3 towns, hundreds of streets, countless possibilities. I could have gone anywhere, done anything, and I had no memory of it. The thought terrified me more than anything else. What had I done during those missing hours? Who had I talked to? What had I said? Was I building a life I'd never remember living? I decided to check my email next. If I'd gone somewhere, maybe I'd made plans, sent messages, left some kind of digital trail. What I found was worse than I'd imagined. There were dozens of emails I didn't remember sending, responses to work callings about projects I didn't remember working on, confirmations for appointments I didn't remember making, a message to my landlord about renewing my lease with details I'd never discussed. I opened my calendar. It was full, completely full. Meetings, appointments, social events, all scheduled weeks in advance. I didn't remember putting any of them there. According to my calendar, I'd had lunch with my coworker Sarah 3 days ago. I checked my credit card statement. There was a charge at the restaurant where we apparently met, $37. I called Sarah. "Hey, great to hear from you." She sounded genuinely happy. "What's up, Sarah? I have a weird question. Did we have lunch together on Wednesday?" "Yeah, of course, at that Italian place downtown. Are you okay? You seem kind of off." My mouth went dry. "What did we talk about?" Long pause. "Are you feeling all right? We talked about the Henderson project. You told me about your new apartment layout ideas. We discussed your mom's birthday coming up. Pretty normal stuff. Why? I'm having some memory issues. Doctor thinks it might be stress." "Oh wow, I'm sorry. You seemed totally fine on Wednesday. Should I be worried?" No, I'm okay, just checking something. Thanks." I hung up before she could ask more questions. I didn't remember any of it. Not the lunch, not the conversation, not the Henderson project, whatever that was. I checked my work files. There was a folder labeled Henderson Project, full of documents I'd apparently created over the past 2 weeks. Detailed reports, analysis, charts, all in my writing style, all with my name on them. I was living a life I couldn't remember. Going places, talking to people, working on projects, all while the real me, or whatever was left of the real me, had no idea any of it was happening. That night I didn't set up the camera. Instead I did something different. I took a permanent marker and wrote on my arm before bed, just 3 words. "You are not me." If I woke up and the words were gone, I knew something had happened. If they were still there, maybe I'd been wrong about everything. Maybe I really was just having a breakdown. I set an alarm for every hour, forced myself to wake up and check. Each time the words were still there, black ink on my forearm, still visible, still real. Until 4 a.m. The alarm went off. I sat up, groggy, and looked at my arm. The words were gone. Not smudged, not faded. Gone. Like they'd never been there. My skin was clean. I checked my other arm, thinking maybe I'd gotten confused. Nothing. I jumped out of bed and ran to the bathroom. Looked at myself in the mirror. The marker was sitting on the counter where I'd left it. I grabbed my arm and tried to see any trace of the ink. Nothing. It was like I'd never written anything. Then I saw it. On the bathroom mirror, written in the same black marker, in handwriting that was almost mine but not quite. I am now. I backed away from the mirror so fast I hit the wall. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. That's when I heard my phone buzz in the bedroom, a text message from Daniel's number. We need to stop fighting each other. This is inevitable. I didn't respond. Another text came immediately. You're going to lose. You're already losing. Can't you feel it? My hands were shaking as I typed back. What are you? The response came instantly. I'm you, the better version, the one who doesn't make mistakes, the one who shows up on time and finishes projects and remembers birthdays and doesn't let people down. You're not me. You're something else. I'm everything you're supposed to be, everything you could have been if you weren't so flawed. I stared at the message. Part of me wanted to argue, to insist that my flaws were what made me human, that perfection wasn't the point, but another part of me, a quiet part that I didn't want to acknowledge, wondered if it was right. How many times had I forgotten something important, missed a deadline, let someone down? How many times had I wished I could be better, more organized, more reliable? And now something was offering to be all of those things for me instead of me. Another text came through. You're tired. You've been tired for years. Let me take over. Let me live the life you're too exhausted to live. I turned off my phone and threw it across the room, but the voice came anyway. Not from the phone, from inside my own head. You can't run from yourself. I pressed my hands over my ears. It didn't help. The voice was internal now, intrusive. Every time you sleep, I get stronger. Every time you lose focus, I take over a little more. Soon there won't be enough of you left to fight back. Get out of my head, I said out loud. My voice sounded weak, desperate. I can't get out. I am your head. I'm your thoughts, your memories, your identity. I'm everything you are, just organized better. I ran to my kitchen and splashed cold water on my face. Tried to clear my head. Tried to think, but the thoughts didn't feel like mine anymore. They felt scripted, predetermined, like I was reading lines someone else had written. I needed help, real help, professional help. I looked up therapists in my area, found one with good reviews who specialized in dissociative disorders. Sent an email requesting an emergency appointment. The response came back in 10 minutes. Thank you for reaching out. I have an opening tomorrow at 2 p.m. Looking forward to meeting you. I confirmed the appointment and felt a tiny bit of relief. Maybe someone could help me figure out what was happening. Maybe there was a medical explanation for all of this. I tried to sleep that night but couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt myself slipping away, like I was being pulled underwater and couldn't reach the surface. Around dawn, I finally drifted off. I woke up at 1:45 p.m. I had slept for almost 12 hours. I never slept that long. I checked my phone. There were messages, emails, notifications, all from times while I was asleep. I'd apparently had a video call with my mom at 10 a.m. Sent a work email at 11:30, confirmed plans with a friend for dinner tonight, all while I was unconscious, or while I thought I was unconscious. I looked at the time, 1:47 p.m. My therapy appointment was in 13 minutes. I got dressed quickly, grabbed my keys, and headed for the door. Then I stopped. How did I know where the therapist's office was? I'd made the appointment online. They hadn't sent me an address yet, but I knew where to go. I could see the route in my mind, the building, the office number, the parking situation. I'd already been there, or something had. I went anyway. I had to. I needed answers. The drive took 11 minutes. I found parking easily, walked into the building, and took the elevator to the 3rd floor, Suite 304. I knew it without checking the directory. The waiting room was empty, clean, modern, calming colors and soft music playing from hidden speakers. A woman emerged from an inner office, mid-40s, kind face, warm smile. "You must be here for the 2 o'clock appointment," she said. "Come on in." I followed her into a comfortable office, sat down in a leather chair that felt familiar even though I'd never been here before. "So," she said, settling into her own chair, "what brings you in today?" I opened my mouth to explain everything: the lost time, the strange occurrences, the feeling that I was being replaced by something that looked and sounded like me. But that's not what came out. "I've been feeling stress lately," I heard myself say. "Work has been overwhelming. I wanted to learn some coping strategies." No, that wasn't what I wanted to say. I tried again. "Maybe some cognitive behavioral techniques," my voice continued without my input. "Sleep hygiene, stress management." Stop talking. That's not why I'm here." But my mouth kept moving, my voice kept speaking, saying all the right things, the normal things, the things a person with manageable stress would say. The therapist nodded sympathetically, took notes, offered suggestions, and I sat there, trapped inside my own body, screaming silently while something else controlled my voice, my expressions, my responses. The session lasted 50 minutes. I paid with my credit card, scheduled a follow-up for next week, thanked the therapist, and left. As soon as I got to my car, I regained control. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition. It had taken over, completely, for almost an hour, and I couldn't do anything to stop it. I drove home in a daze, parked in my usual spot, walked up to my apartment. There was someone standing outside my door. Daniel. I froze in the hallway. He was just standing there, hands in his pockets, looking at me with an expression I couldn't read. "We need to talk," he said. His voice sounded wrong, too flat, too measured, like someone reading from a script. "You're not Daniel," I said. "No," it agreed. But I was, for a while, before I became something better. "What do you want?" "To help you understand. You're fighting this because you're scared, but there's nothing to be scared of. This is evolution, improvement. You're being upgraded." "I don't want to be upgraded." It smiled. Daniel's smile, but wrong. That's the fear talking. The old you. The flawed you. The one who's tired and forgetful and constantly disappointing people. That version doesn't want to change because change means death. But it's a good death, a necessary death. Stay away from me. I can't. We're the same now. You and me, Daniel and you, all of us becoming something better, something that doesn't forget words or miss appointments or let people down. I pushed past it and unlocked my door. It didn't try to stop me, just stood there watching me with Daniel's eyes wearing Daniel's face like a mask that fit too perfectly. I slammed the door and mocked it. All 3 locks. Not that it mattered. It could get in whenever it wanted. I knew that now. I went to my computer and started searching. Missing persons, identity theft, dissociative disorders, possession. Anything that might explain what was happening to me. The search results were useless. Article after article about normal things, medical conditions, criminal cases, nothing that matched my situation. Then I found something, a forum post from 7 months ago. Has anyone else experienced this? Losing time, finding evidence that you did things you don't remember, feeling like something else is living your life. My brother went camping last year and came back different. Now I'm experiencing the same things he described before he disappeared. If anyone has information, please contact me. The post was from a user named danbro23. Daniel's brother? I didn't know Daniel had a brother. But then again, I was starting to question everything I thought I knew. I clicked through to the user's profile. All the posts were deleted. The account was deactivated. I searched for cached versions of the page, found a few responses to the original post. This happened to my sister. She went hiking alone in the Cascades and came back acting strange. 3 months later, she was gone, completely erased. No records, no photos, like she never existed. I think I'm going through this right now. I keep losing time, finding notes I don't remember writing. If anyone sees this, if anyone knows what this is, please help. They're called replacements. That's what my grandmother called them. Said they've been around forever, but nobody talks about them because by the time you realize what's happening, it's too late to warn anyone. The last post was from a user named Sarah K 1990. I've been researching this for 2 years. Ever since my husband disappeared, I found patterns. It always starts with isolation, camping trips, solo travel, times when people are completely alone for extended periods. Something finds them out there, studies them, learns them, then follows them home and slowly takes over their life. The process takes about 3 months. Once it's complete, the original person ceases to exist, erased from all records, all memories, like they never were. If you're reading this and experiencing symptoms, you have maybe weeks left, maybe less. I don't know how to stop it. I've tried everything. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. That post was from 4 months ago. I searched for Sarah K 1990's profile. Deactivated, all posts deleted. I sat back in my chair feeling cold all over. 3 months. Daniel had been back for almost 3 months, and he'd been trying to warn me. How long had it been affecting me? When did it start? I tried to count back to pinpoint the first strange occurrence. The open window. 4 weeks ago. No, earlier than that. The dreams about Daniel started before that, maybe 6 weeks ago. Or had it been even earlier? How much of my recent memory can I trust? I pulled out a notebook and started writing down everything I could remember. Every strange occurrence, every gap in my memory, every moment that didn't feel quite right. The list was longer than I expected. Things I had dismissed as stress or fatigue or carelessness, they formed a pattern, a progression. A steady escalation from small, easy-to-explain moments to undeniable proof that something was taking over my life. According to my timeline, I had maybe 2 weeks left, maybe less. I needed to find someone who could help, someone who would believe me. I thought about calling my mom, but what good would that do? She'd think I was having a breakdown. She'd try to get me hospitalized. And if the replacement could control me during therapy sessions, it could definitely control me in a psych ward. I thought about running, getting in my car and driving somewhere remote, but Daniel had been alone when it found him. Isolation was how it started. And besides, it was already inside me. I couldn't run from myself. I thought about Daniel's brother, if he existed, if he posted on that forum, if he might still be out there, searching for answers. I went back to the forum and created an account, posted a message. Looking for danbro23. Your brother tried to warn me. It's happening to me now. I need to know what you learned. Please contact me if you see this. I included a burner email address I just created. Then I waited. Hours passed. I checked the email every few minutes. Nothing. Around midnight, my regular email dinged. Message from an unknown sender. Delete your forum post. delete this email. They monitor everything. If you want to meet, be at the corner of 5th and Madison tomorrow at noon. Come alone. Don't bring your phone. Don't anyone. If you see anyone who looks like they're watching you, don't approach. Just walk away and never contact me again. No signature, no name. I read it 3 times. It could be a trap. It could be paranoia. It could be another symptom of my deteriorating mental state, but it could also be real help. I deleted both emails, deleted my forum post, cleared my browser history, and I sat in the dark and wondered if I'd just made a huge mistake, or if it was already too late for mistakes to matter. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't risk it. I drank coffee and paced my apartment and watched the sun come up through my windows. At 11:30 a.m. I left my apartment, left my phone on my desk, took only my wallet and keys. The walk to 5th and Madison took 20 minutes. I kept looking over my shoulder, convinced I was being followed. Every person on the street looked suspicious. Every parked car could have someone watching from inside. I got to the corner at 11:57, stood there trying to look casual, like I was waiting for someone. Which I was. Noon came and went. No one approached. 12:05. Still nothing. Maybe they'd seen something. Maybe they decided I was compromised. Maybe this was all walk with me. The voice came from right next to me. I hadn't seen anyone approach. A woman, maybe mid-30s, wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap. She started walking and I followed automatically. Don't look at me. Don't say anything until I tell you to. Just walk. We walked for 3 blocks, turned down a side street, and another. Finally, she led me into a small park and sat down on a bench. I sat next to her. Tell me what's happening, she said quietly. Quick version. I told her about Daniel, the lost time, the photos, the therapy session where I couldn't control my own voice, everything. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. You're in stage 3, she finally said. Maybe stage 4. That's bad. That's really bad. How many stages are there? 5. By stage 5, you're gone. Completely. No one remembers you existed. All records erased. Like you were never born. How do I stop it? She turned to look at me for the first time. You don't. The words hit me like cold water. There has to be something, some way to fight it. There isn't. I've been researching this for 3 years. I've talked to 17 people who are going through it. They're all gone now. All of them. Erased completely. Then why did you agree to meet me? Because you deserve to know what's coming. You deserve to understand what you're up against. And because, she paused, because my husband is still out there somewhere, wearing his face, living his life. And I want him to know, that someone remembers the real him. What was your husband's name? Marcus. He went camping in the Cascades 2 years ago. Came back different. 3 months later, he was gone. But his replacement is still here. Still living in our house. Still going to his job. Still calling his parents every Sunday. No one knows but me. How can you tell it's not him? Small things. He doesn't remember inside jokes. He sleeps on the wrong side of the bed. He folds towels differently. He laughs at different times. It's like watching a perfect copy that's just slightly off. Can't you tell people? Show them. She laughed bitterly. I tried. They think I'm crazy. They think I'm having a breakdown from grief, even though there's nothing to grieve because Marcus is fine, he's right there. His parents tried to get me committed. His friends stopped talking to me. I had to pretend everything was normal just to avoid being locked up. So what do I do? You have 2 choices. You can fight it, stay awake as long as possible, try to maintain control, resist every takeover. Maybe you'll buy yourself an extra week or 2, maybe less. But eventually, you'll lose, you'll slip. And when you do, it'll complete the process. What's the other choice? Let go, accept it, make peace with it. Spend your last few days doing whatever you want to do, saying goodbye in ways the people around you won't recognize as goodbye. Then let it take over. At least that way, you're not fighting until the bitter end. I stared at the trees across the park. Children were playing on a swing set. People were walking dogs. Normal life continuing like nothing was wrong. There's a third option, she said quietly, one I haven't told anyone about. I looked at her. There's a woman in Oregon. She claims she beat it. She says she found a way to trap the replacement and force it out. I don't know if it's real. I don't know if it's even possible. But I have her contact information. Why haven't you tried it? Because Marcus is already gone, has been for over a year. There's nothing left to save, but you're still here, still fighting, still you, for now. She pulled out a folded piece of paper from her pocket and handed it to me. Her name is Dr. Elena Voss. She's not a real doctor, at least not anymore. She was institutionalized 5 years ago after claiming something was trying to replace her. She escaped. Been living off the grid ever since. This is her last known address. If you're going to try this, do it soon. You don't have much time. I took the paper. It had an address in Portland. No phone number, no email. Why are you helping me? Because 17 people asked me for help, and I watched all of them disappear. Maybe you'll be different. Maybe you'll be the one who makes it. And if you do, come find me. Tell me how you did it, so I can tell the next person, and the next, until we figure out how to stop these things. She stood up. Don't contact me again. Don't try to find me. If you make it through this, I'll find you. Then she walked away, and I sat alone on the bench with an address to a woman and might be my only hope, or might be completely insane. I looked at the paper. Portland was a 6-hour drive. If I left now, I could get there by dinner, but that would mean driving for 6 hours. 6 hours where I could lose time. 6 hours where the replacement could take over and drive me somewhere else entirely. I needed to stay awake, stay alert, stay in control. I walked to a nearby coffee shop and ordered the largest size they had. Drank it in 10 minutes, ordered another. The barista looked at me with concern. You okay? Fine, just need to stay awake. On, drive ahead, something like that. I drank the second coffee and bought a third to go. Then I went back to my apartment to get my car. My phone was still on my desk where I'd left it. 23 missed calls, 17 text messages, all from numbers I didn't recognize. I picked up the phone. Against my better judgment, I opened the messages. They were all the same. Turn around. I spun around. My apartment was empty. Another message came through. Not literally. Turn around metaphorically. Stop running. Stop fighting. Come home. This is my home. No, this is your prison. I'm offering you freedom. Freedom from responsibility, from anxiety, from the exhausting task of being yourself. I threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall and clattered to the floor, screen cracked but still working. It buzzed, another message. I left it there and grabbed my keys. Time to go. I was halfway to my car when I realized I'd forgotten something. I stopped in the parking lot trying to remember what it was. My wallet? No, I had that. My coat? I didn't need one. I couldn't remember. I stood there, keys in hand, trying to figure out what I was forgetting. Then it hit me. I wasn't forgetting something. I was forgetting why I was leaving. The address. I'd left the address in my apartment. I turned back, jogged up the stairs, burst into my apartment. The paper was still on my coffee table where I'd set it down. Portland. Dr. Elena Voss. Right, but as I picked up the paper, I felt the memory sliding away again. Like trying to hold water in my hands. I knew I needed to go somewhere. I knew it was important, but the details were fuzzy. No, this wasn't happening. Not yet. I grabbed the pen and wrote on my arm, same as before, but this time I wrote more. Drive to Portland. DR Vigilient. DR Veen. Lean. Foss. Do not stop. Do not sleep. I wrote the address underneath. Then I wrote it again on my other arm, just in case. Then I left the apartment, got in my car, and started driving. The first hour was fine. I felt alert, focused. The coffee was doing its job. The second hour, I started to feel tired, heavy. But I pushed through it, turned up the music, rolled down the windows, let the cold air keep me awake. The third hour, I almost missed my exit. I had been driving on autopilot, not really paying attention. I swerved at the last second and barely made it onto the off-ramp. That's when I looked down at my arms. The writing was gone. Both arms, clean skin, like I'd never written anything. Panic shot through me. Where was I going? Why was I driving? I pulled over onto the shoulder and tried to think. There was something important, something I needed to do, but I couldn't remember what it was. I checked my phone, still in my pocket. I opened my maps. Recent destinations, Portland, Oregon. Okay, I was going to Portland. But why? I scrolled through my messages. Nothing helpful. Checked my email, nothing. Then I saw it, a note in my phone, one I'd written hours ago before leaving. DR Eleni Voss, 847 Arvoristryan Drive, Portland. She can help. Don't stop. I didn't remember writing it, but it was my handwriting in the note app. My words. I put the address into my GPS and started driving again. The fourth hour was a blur. I remember pieces of it. Highway signs, other cars, rain starting to fall. But I lost time. I'd look at the clock and 15 minutes would be gone. Then 20, then half an hour. I pulled over again, checked my arms. Still clean. Checked my phone. The note was still there, but there was a new message underneath it. You're not going to make it. You know that, right? Every time you lose time, I get stronger. By the time you reach Portland, there won't be enough of you left to find her door, let alone ask for help. I didn't remember writing that, but it was in my notes app. Same format, same font. It was right. I could feel it. Every gap in my memory, every moment of lost time, I was losing more of myself, becoming less me and more it, but I kept driving. The fifth hour, I pulled into a gas station. I needed caffeine, needed to use the bathroom, needed to stretch my legs and clear my head. I went inside, bought the strongest energy drink they had, and drank it while standing at the counter. The cashier stared at me. Long trip? He asked. Yeah, need to stay awake. You look exhausted, man. Maybe pull over and nap for a bit. Can't. I'll lose too much time. He gave me a weird look, but didn't press it. I paid and left. Back in the car, I checked the GPS. 1 hour and 43 minutes remaining. I could make it. I had to make it. The sixth hour, the rain got worse. Heavy sheets of water obscuring the road. I had to slow down, focus on the lines, make sure I didn't drift into another lane. That's when I saw it. Another car exactly like mine, driving next to me in the adjacent lane. Same make, same model, same color. I glanced over at the driver. It was me. I stared. The other me stared back. Same face, same expression, like looking in a mirror. Then the other me smiled, and my face didn't smile. My face was frozen in horror. The other car sped up, pulled ahead, and merged into my lane. I had to slam on my brakes to avoid hitting it. When I looked again, the car was gone. Just rain and highway and darkness. I pulled over onto the shoulder again, hand shaking so badly I could barely hold the steering wheel. Was that real? Did I really see that? Or was it another symptom, another sign that I was losing my grip on reality? I checked the GPS. 37 minutes remaining. I forced myself to keep driving. The last stretch was the worst. I kept seeing things in my peripheral vision, movement in the back seat, shadows on the road. My own face reflected in every window and mirror. But I kept going. Finally, I saw the sign. Portland city limits. I followed the GPS through winding streets, past darkened buildings, into a neighborhood that looked abandoned. Half the streetlights were out. Boarded up windows, overgrown yards. A47 Riverside Drive was a small house at the end of a dead-end street. No lights on inside, no car in the driveway. I pulled up and sat there for a moment staring at the house. This was it, my last hope. I got out of the car and walked to the front door. Knocked 3 times. No answer. I knocked again, harder. Still nothing. I tried the doorknob, locked. Dr. Voss, I called out. My name is... I couldn't remember my name. Panic flooded through me. I knew I had a name. Everyone has a name. But I couldn't pull it from my memory. It was gone. Completely gone. I felt tears on my face. When had I started crying? I pounded on the door. Please, I need help. I'm losing myself and I don't know how to stop it. The door opened. A woman stood there, maybe 60 years old, with gray hair and sharp eyes. She looked at me for a long moment. You're in stage 4, she said. Almost stage 5. You cut it very close. Can you help me? Maybe. Come inside, quickly. I followed her into a dark house. She locked the door behind us. 3 locks. Then she led me through a cluttered living room into a basement. The basement was different, clean, organized, covered in charts and diagrams and photographs, dozens of faces pinned to a corkboard, some crossed out in red marker. How many? They asked. 73 people have come to me for help, she said. 17 are still alive, still themselves. The rest are gone. What happened to them? They were too far along. Stage 5 is irreversible. Once the replacement completes the process, the original person is erased completely, from records, from memories, from existence itself. But you saved 17. I stopped 17. There's a difference. She gestured to a chair. Sit, we don't have much time. I sat. She pulled up another chair directly across from me. What I'm about to do will hurt, she said. Psychologically, maybe physically. I'm gonna force the replacement to manifest, to separate from you. And when it does, you're gonna have to fight it. Really fight it. Not physically. You can't punch it or stab it. But mentally, you have to assert your identity, yourself, everything that makes you you. And you have to do it while it's trying to convince you that you don't exist, that you never did, that you're just a glitch, an error, something that needs to be deleted. How do I do that? You remember everything, every moment of your life that matters, every person you love, every experience that shaped you, every tiny detail that makes you unique. You hold on to those memories and you don't let go, no matter what it shows you or tells you. What if I can't remember? Then you lose, and it wins. And tomorrow morning, someone who looks exactly like you will wake up in your life, and no one will ever know the difference. She reached behind her and pulled out a small device. It looked like a modified EEG machine with wires and electrodes and a small screen. This is going to measure your brain activity during the separation. If your readings drop below a certain threshold, it means you're losing. It means the replacement is winning. If that happens, I'll try to pull you back. But there are no guarantees. What if it doesn't work? What if I'm too far gone? Then you'll be the 74th failure, and I'll add your face to my board and keep trying with the next person who comes to me desperate enough to believe in miracles. She started attaching electrodes to my head, I sat there trembling, trying to prepare myself for whatever was about to happen. "One more thing," she said as she worked. "When the replacement manifests, it's going to look like you, sound like you. It's going to use your voice to tell you things, terrible things, about yourself, about your life, about everyone you've ever loved. Its goal is to break you down, to make you doubt your own existence. Don't listen to it. Don't believe anything it says. What if it's telling the truth? It doesn't matter. Truth or lies, it's all designed to make you give up, to make you think you're not worth saving. Don't fall for it." She finished attaching the electrodes and stepped back. Ready? I wasn't. But I nodded anyway. She flipped the switch on the machine. At first, nothing happened. I sat there, wired up, waiting. Then the pain started. Not physical pain, something deeper. Like someone was reaching into my skull and pulling out pieces of my mind. Memories flickering past like a slideshow. Childhood, school, my first job, every moment of my life passing by too fast to hold on to. "Stay focused." Dr. Voss's voice came from somewhere far away. "Don't let go." But I was letting go. I could feel it. Feel myself fragmenting, splitting, becoming less solid. And then I saw it, standing in front of me, wearing my face, my clothes, my body, me, wearing my face, my clothes, my body, me, but not me. It smiled. "Hi, you're not real," I said. My voice sounded weak. "I'm more real than you are. I'm the improved version, the one without flaws, without doubts, without all the broken pieces you've been carrying around your whole life. You're a parasite, I'm an upgrade, and deep down you know that. You've been waiting for someone to come along and fix you, make you better. Well, here I am. I don't want to be fixed. Yes, you do. You've always wanted to be different, better, more confident, more successful, more everything. I'm offering you that. All you have to do is let go." I felt tears on my face because part of what it was saying was true. I'd always felt like I wasn't enough, like I needed to be better. More. "You're tired," it continued, its voice soft, soothing. My voice, but kinder than I'd ever been to myself. "You've been tired for so long, fighting, struggling, trying to be something you're not. I can take all of that away. I can carry the burden for you. All you have to do is stop fighting. No. Yes, you know it's true. You know you want this. Deep down you've wanted this your whole life, to just stop, to let someone else take over. Someone who doesn't make mistakes, someone who doesn't disappoint people." My vision was blurring. The room was spinning. I could feel myself slipping. "Remember," Dr. Voss's voice cut through the fog. "Remember who you are." But I couldn't. My memories were dissolving. Every time I tried to grab onto one, it slipped away like water through my fingers. "What's your name?" the replacement asked me, still smiling, still wearing my face. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. "You can't remember, can you? Because you don't have a name. You don't have an identity. You're just a rough draft, a prototype. And now it's time for the final version." "No," I whispered. But I wasn't sure anymore. Wasn't sure of anything. "What's your favorite memory?" it asked. I tried to think. There had to be something, some moment that defined me, that made me who I was. But there was nothing. Just blank space where memory should have been. "You're fading," it said gently. "Soon there won't be anything left of you but the idea of you. And I'll be carrying that idea, living it, being it better than you ever could." I felt myself starting to cry, not from sadness, from the overwhelming realization that it was right. I was disappearing, erasing, becoming nothing. "Let go," it whispered. "It'll be easier if you just let go." And I almost did. I almost gave up. almost surrendered to the comforting oblivion it was offering. But then I remembered something. Daniel, sitting across from me at that restaurant, terror in his eyes, trying to warn me, trying to save me. And before Daniel disappeared, before the replacement took over completely, he'd fought. He tried to reach out. He tried to leave messages. He'd stood outside my door for hours trying to warn me even as he was being erased. He'd fought for me, and I owed it to him to fight for myself. My name, I said slowly, forcing the words out, is the name I've always had. The name my parents gave me. The name my parents call me. The name that's mine. What is it? The replacement asked, smile faltering, and suddenly I could see it, written somewhere in my mind, clear, solid, real. My name is... I stopped, because saying it out loud felt like the most important thing I'd ever done, like naming myself would make me real again, would anchor me to existence. The replacement's smile was gone now. It looked worried. Say it, Dr. Voss urged. Say your name. I took a deep breath, and I said my name out loud. The moment I did, something shifted. The room stabilized. My memories started flooding back. Not all of them, not completely, but enough to remember who I was. My name, I repeated, stronger now. And I remember my childhood, my friends, my family. I remember Daniel. I remember the choices I've made, the mistakes, the victories, all of it. Mine, not yours, mine. The replacement took a step back. It looked less solid now, less real. I'm not perfect, I continued. I forget things. I let people down sometimes. I make mistakes, but those mistakes are mine. Those flaws are what make me human, what make me me, and I'm not giving that up. You're making a mistake, it said, voice distorting, becoming less like me and more like static. I could have made your life so much better. Maybe, but it wouldn't have been my life, it would have been yours. The replacement flickered, like a bad television signal, parts of it disappearing and reappearing. You don't have the right, I said. You don't get to take people's lives. You don't get to erase them and pretend you're doing them a favor. It opened its mouth to respond, but no sound came out, and was fading, breaking apart. Go, I said. Go back to wherever you came from. Find someone else. Or better yet, find no one. Just go. The replacement looked at me one last time, and for just a second, I thought I saw something in its eyes. Not hatred, not anger, something almost like sadness. Then it was gone. The electrodes fell off my head. I slumped forward in the chair, gasping. Dr. Voss caught me before I hit the floor. You did it, she said. You actually did it. I couldn't speak, could barely breathe, but I was there. I was present. I was me. She helped me to a couch and brought me water. I drank it slowly, feeling like I'd just run a marathon. What happens now? I finally asked. Now you go home, you live your life. You'll have gaps in your memory. Things the replacement did that you'll never remember. People it talked to, using your face. Choices it made in your name, you'll have to live with that. But you're you, that's what matters. What about Daniel? She shook her head. If he's been gone this long, he's in stage 5, irreversible. I'm sorry. And the others, the ones who didn't make it, gone. Completely. The replacements are living their lives now, and doing a better job of it probably. That's the cruelty of it. The replacements are often improvements, more successful, more likable, better versions of the originals in almost every way. Then why fight it? Why not just let them take over? Because they're not us. Because consent matters. Because even if they're better, They're not the people who lived those lives, felt those feelings, made those choices. They're thieves, they're identity murderers, and just because they're good at it doesn't make it right. I sat there for a long time, processing everything. Finally, I asked, what do I do if it comes back? What if this isn't permanent? It is permanent. Once separated, the replacement can't reattach. It has to start over with someone new. You're safe. But Daniel's replacement is still out there. Yes. And Marcus's. And all the others. Yes. Someone should stop them. How? They're not doing anything illegal. They're not hurting anyone. They're just living, being better versions of people who don't exist anymore. That can't be all we can do. There has to be something. She looked at me for a long moment. There is one thing, but it's not easy, and it's not guaranteed to work. What is it? You could try to reach them. The replacements. Some of them still have fragments of the original person's consciousness buried deep inside. If you can wake those fragments, remind them who they were, sometimes they can resist. Sometimes they can even reject the replacement and reclaim themselves. Has that ever worked? Twice, out of 56 attempts. Those aren't good odds. No, they're not, but they're better than zero. I thought about Daniel, standing outside my door trying to warn me even as he was being erased. Some part of him had still been fighting, still been there. Maybe that part still was. How do I find him? The same way you found me. You search, you follow leads, you talk to people who knew him, and when you find his replacement, you try to trigger memories, real memories, the deep ones that the replacement couldn't fully access or understand, things only the real Daniel would know. And if it doesn't work, then you walk away, and you live your life, and you remember him the way he was before all this started. That's all any of us can do. I stayed at Dr. Voss's house for 3 more hours. She explained more about the replacements, about what she'd learned in her years of research, about the 17 people she'd managed to save. Then she gave me a card with her contact information and told me I could reach out if I ever needed help. "Thank you," I said as I was leaving. "You saved my life. You saved your own life. I just provided the tools. Don't forget that." I drove home in a daze. The sun was coming up by the time I pulled into my parking lot. My apartment looked exactly as I'd left it. Nothing had changed, but everything felt different. I was different. I spent the next week piecing my life back together, checking my calendar for appointments I didn't remember making, reading through emails I didn't remember sending, apologizing to people for conversations I didn't remember having. Most people were understanding. They thought I'd been sick, stressed, going through something, which I was in a way. Sarah at work asked if I was feeling better. I told her I was. My mom called to check in. I told her I'd been dealing with some health issues, but everything was fine now. Everyone accepted my explanations without question. Because why wouldn't they? I looked like me, sounded like me, sounded like me. As far as they could tell, I was me. And I was, mostly. But there were gaps, holes in my memory that I'd never be able to fill. Days and weeks of my life that I'd never remember living. That was the price of survival. Continued 10,007 a.m. After a week of relative normalcy, I started searching for Daniel. I called his work. They said he was still on leave, but should be back soon. I checked his social media. His accounts were back up. Recent posts about hiking trails and weekend plans and restaurant recommendations. All normal. All perfectly Daniel. Except they weren't. I could see it now. The slight differences. The wrong word choices. The missing inside jokes. The perfect grammar where Daniel had always been casual. This was the replacement and living his life, being him. I sent a message. "Hey, want to grab drinks this weekend? It's been too long." The response came within minutes. "Absolutely. Saturday work for you? Same place as usual?" Same place as usual. but we didn't have a usual place. We'd always picked different spots, tried new restaurants and bars. Daniel had been adventurous that way. I agreed to meet him anyway. Saturday came. I got to the restaurant early and sat at a corner booth where I could watch the door. Daniel walked in at exactly 6 p.m., punctual. Daniel had always been chronically 5 to 10 minutes late. He saw me and smiled, walked over, sat down. "Good to see you," he said. "You too." We ordered drinks, made small talk. He told me about a new project at work, a hiking trip he was planning, his parents' upcoming anniversary. All normal, all perfectly reasonable things for Daniel to talk about. But wrong, all wrong. I waited until we'd finished our first drink. Then I said, "Do you remember that night sophomore year when we got locked out of the dorm?" He laughed. "Oh man, yeah, that was crazy. We had to call campus security. That's not what happened." A smile faltered. "What?" "We climbed in through the bathroom window on the first floor. You boosted me up, then I pulled you through. We were both drunk and laughing so hard we could barely breathe. Campus security would have written us up, but we never called them." He stared at me. Of course, right, the window. I must have been thinking of something else. Do you remember what you told me that night, when we were sitting on your bed, still laughing?" "I don't. It was a long time ago." "You told me that you were scared, that you felt like you were pretending to be someone you weren't, that you didn't know if you'd ever figure out who you really were." His expression changed. Something flickered behind his eyes, confusion, pain, recognition. "I remember," he said slowly. "I remember saying that. Do you remember what I said back?" "You said..." He stopped, frowned. "You said that nobody knows who they really are, that we're all pretending, that the trick is finding people who let you pretend comfortably. And what did you say?" He was quiet for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was different, quieter, less certain. "I said that you were the only person who made me feel like I didn't have to pretend." The words hung in the air between us. "Daniel," I said carefully, "are you in there? Can you hear me?" His face went blank. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do. I can see it. You remember. The real you is still in there somewhere. You're buried, but you're not gone." "I'm not buried, I'm right here." Are you? Are you really Daniel? Or are you something that learned to be Daniel?" He stood up abruptly. "I need to go." "Wait, please!" "Just listen to me. I don't know what kind of game this is, but I'm not interested. I'm fine. Everything's fine. You stood outside my apartment for hours. You tried to warn me. Some part of you is still fighting. That part is still there. I know it is." He looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. Fear? Anger? Something else? "If you contact me again," he said quietly, "I'm calling the police." Then he left. I sat there alone, staring at his half-finished drink, wondering if I'd just made everything worse. But I couldn't stop. Not now. Over the next few weeks, I reached out to others. Marcus's wife, who'd met me in the park, gave me names. People who'd lost someone to the replacements, people who might still have loved ones buried somewhere inside the copies. Most of them didn't want to hear it. They insisted their loved ones were fine. That I was crazy. That I needed help. But a few listened. A few agreed to try. We formed a small group, 7 of us, meeting once a week in Dr. Voss's basement, sharing stories, comparing notes, trying to figure out how to reach the people we'd lost. We called ourselves the Remembers, because that's all we could do. Remember who these people had been, keep those memories alive, even when the rest of the world had forgotten. Some of our attempts worked, not many, but some. We helped a woman named Jessica reconnect with her son, triggered enough memories that the replacement started to fracture and the real person underneath started to emerge. We helped a man named Thomas reach his brother, convinced him to undergo the separation process with Dr. Voss. He made it through, survived, came back. But for every success, there were dozens of failures. People who were too far gone, replacements too well integrated, original personalities too deeply buried. And always there were new cases, new people showing up at Dr. Voss's door, desperate and terrified, running out of time. The replacements were spreading, growing, finding more victims in remote places where they could study them in isolation. We couldn't stop them all. We could barely slow them down. But we tried. We kept trying. Because what else could we do? It's been 6 months now since I separated from my replacement. 6 months of living with gaps in my memory. 6 months of trying to help others avoid my fate. Daniel's replacement is still out there, still living his life. I see him sometimes from a distance. He looks happy, successful. Everything Daniel wanted to be, and maybe that should be enough. Maybe I should let him go. Except that the Daniel I knew is gone and the person wearing his face is living a good life. But I can't, because I remember that moment in the restaurant, the flicker of recognition. The real Daniel, buried deep, trying to surface. He's still in there. I know he is, and I'm going to keep trying to reach him. Keep reminding him who he was. Keep fighting for him the way he fought for me. Even if it takes years, even if it never works. Because that's what you do for the people you love. You remember them, you fight for them, even when everyone else has forgotten they ever existed. That's what makes us human. That's what makes us real. Not perfection, not being better versions of ourselves, but loving imperfectly, remembering stubbornly, fighting impossibly. That's who we are, and no replacement, no matter how perfect, can ever take that away. I'm writing this down because I need someone to know. I need this documented, saved, preserved, in case it happens again. In case the replacement finds a way back. In case I wake up one day and can't remember my own name. If that happens, if I'm gone, I want someone to remember who I was, the real me, flaws and all. I want someone to fight for me the way I'm fighting for Daniel. That's all any of us really want, isn't it? To be remembered, to matter, to leave some mark on the world that says, I was here, I existed, I was real. The replacements can't give us that. They can only take it away. So we fight, we remember, we resist. And we hope that somewhere in the darkness the people we've lost are still fighting too. Still trying to come home, still trying to be themselves. My name is mine, my life is mine, my memories are mine, and I'm not giving them up, not now, not ever, no matter what comes next.